Yo, what's good, people? It's your boy Deuce the Privilege, a.k.a. Deuce Privi, my lovely co-host, Kadi Ba.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Today is something special, man. You know, I just want to kick it off saying that in life, we face with many different challenges. Mm-hmm. And life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond.
Facts.
That's a fact.
And where there's a will, there's a way. And it's not about how many times you get knocked down or how you get knocked down. It's all about getting up and to get back. Right? So just round of applause for everybody that just went through something and still got to it and got back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
With that being said, special guest in the building, retired NBA player, NBA TV analyst, a mentor to the youth, a gentleman who's from our communities that has gone through some things and taken his experience to pour back into the community to help save some of our younger brothers from going through some of the things that he's gone through or he may have witnessed in his time coming up. So shout out to Marc Jackson. Thank you for being here, my brother. I appreciate you, man. We just had a whole interview off air.
Well, that's it.
Nah, but you know what I like about that? Because, you know, when I met you, you were very generous, very kind, easy to talk to. We chopped it up. We spoke about what we had going on, what you had going on, and, you know, you were enthusiastic about coming up here. As far as, you know, when I extended you the invite, you were definitely with it, and I appreciate that. And just from following you from that time to now and getting to know you, like, you're somebody who's really hands-on with the youth and, like, practicing what you preach.
Absolutely.
And I've done a good amount of research on you. You have a very, very interesting career. So let's jump right into it. You're from Philly, right?
From Philly.
Born and raised.
Yep.
All right. So we know, you know, you've played for the NBA. Tell us a little bit about what got you into basketball.
Oh, great question. So, you know, I was a poverty-stricken kid growing up in a house with no heat, no running water in the inner city of North Philadelphia. You know, it gets cold there. So I was a big kerosene heater guy, where I was only heat I got was from the kerosene heater. So, you know, for me, it was like I didn't have many options. You know, drug-infested home, drug-infested community, not many role models to look up to, so I had to find something to keep me busy, and that game of basketball kind of just fell on my step. It was told on me from a gentleman who lived in my community who played college basketball, who kind of taught me the game around 14. And when he taught me that game, I ran with it, and I said, so hold on, you mean I can get out this community like that? Not saying my community was bad in a way, but what was going on in my community personally was bad. So like, I can get out of here. He's like, you can go anywhere you want with this game. You can go anywhere around the world. And at that point, I fell in love with the game. So when I trained, when I worked out, when I shot free throws, and I did anything, it was for a bigger picture of seeing the world. And then the deeper I got involved in the game, the deeper I got into learning about the game, that I really learned that you can go anywhere with the game of basketball. Anywhere in the world. I'm a big culture person. I'm big on culture, learning people's cultures. I wanted to travel as a young age, wanted to see different things, different sights, and doing that and learned that this game would do it, and I just got addicted to it.
Nice.
Did you have anybody in your family that was pushing you? That was like really standing behind you? Like, what was your support system like? Let's start from maybe around the age, like junior high, like 11, 12, 13, when, you know, around that time, some kids might be in the street, but it's like in your head, you're like, yo, you know what? Basketball is the way out. I want to do this. Did you have anybody that was on your heels to make sure that you stayed committed to it?
So family members, no. Because, you know, I grew up back and forth between my grandmother in Cambridge Mall, Richard Island Projects, North Philadelphia, and then with my mother and stepfather in another part of North Philadelphia. So, unfortunately, my mother had the crack epidemic. She was in that. She was a drug addict at the time. My stepfather wasn't really there. My biological father lived somewhere in Miami Beach. Didn't really interact with him. My grandmother, her thing when I was with her is just keep me alive. She would keep me in the house a lot. Keeping the house alive, she also had a speakeasy. So I was serving alcohol to the elders of the community, doing things like working at speakeasy since 8 years old. So I'm very familiar with alcohol. That's why I've never consumed it. And then, my mother's point of view, being in a drug-infested home, so I really couldn't leave the house then, but I would sneak out, do what I could. But for me, when it comes to having family members push me, it wasn't about, I didn't have that. I was a self-motivated person. And I think I was motivated by seeing all the negatives that surrounded me. Seeing the negatives and say, I don't want that. So I need to do opposite what they're doing and be involved in other things that was going to push me, and that was basketball. So I had coaches that would take me to the wing, teach me the game and things like that. And when they taught me the game, but they also showed me how to become a man. And I think now in my 40s, I think a lot of for me was not just becoming a man through the game, but just wanting to build a better life for myself. And as my children, I had children, got married, had children, then I wanted to show them a different way, but my children grew up the way I was. So I really focused with my children about respect, work ethic. They know I'm big on showing love because I wasn't showing a lot of love growing up. I'm big on understanding and letting them know they appreciate it. Not just that my sons do what I say, but I appreciate you being in my life. I'm big on that, and I'm big on making them understand that when you step away from me, when you leave high school and you get into college, you on your own. Anybody mess you physically, I'm there. But you got to learn to defend yourself mentally for the streets, and not street meaning the hardcore streets, but the streets of life.
Right, the real world.
The real world.
You said that you didn't receive a lot of love. You didn't receive much love.
In a certain way. My grandmother loved me. My mother would try to love me, but she was involved in other things.
But how did that affect you? How did that motivate you? And what role did the lack of the love in a way where you may have felt like you should have had it, not getting it? What role did that play, whether, good and bad, of who you are today and what got you here in this moment? Like, how does somebody who's lacking a certain type of love make it to the NBA?
Great question. Basketball loved me. Basketball loved me. Basketball gave me the love I need. And now, mind you, I have coaches that took care of me. I had coaches, like at one point I had a coach named John Hurnett. When I was raised by my grandmother passed away, I was forced to pretty much live with my mother and stepfather again in the unheated, with no running water home. So what he would do, he would come get me in the mornings, take me to school, give me breakfast, drop me off. Then he would come get me, take me to his house, feed me, let me do my homework, take me to gym, work me out, then feed me dinner, and then drop me back off.
So he stepped in.
So that was a form of love. Love coming in different ways.
Yeah.
But what I've learned from it is I don't expect things from people. If it's given to me, I appreciate it, but I understand that I don't want nothing for free. I understand that. But I do, we was having a conversation before here, like we talk about life and how I deal with people around me. I'm big on energy. I'm big on positive energy. I give energy. I love giving energy. I'm big for giving love to people. But like if I'm not getting it back, I cut people off. Like I don't want to be in that space because there's too many people in this world. There's too much life to give. There's too much life to live if you don't have, if you're trying to force something. So
And
like that.
I just want to highlight something you just said, because you said you don't have expectations, but yet you cut people off if you don't receive the love that you give. And I just want to highlight that because there's a difference between expectations and requirements.
Yes.
Right.
Right? So, you can't expect yourself out of others.
Right.
But you can have requirements to be in my life, in this circle,
Absolutely.
to
'Cause
be
you have
in my
That's
standards.
the
universe.
great way you said that, man. You said that. That's the way you said that is right on. Like people say, now mind you, I was very transparent. We had a conversation about how did I learn to deal with the childhood traumas that came to my life as an adult, and I got a therapist. When I got divorced 4 years ago, the first thing I did was get a therapist. I had a couples therapist, and I had my own therapist, and that just took me like to a whole nother realm of maturity. and
Does
growing up.
the sex or ethnicity of the therapist matter to you?
I think it's each his own. So my therapist was a female.
Okay.
And I know I got
For which, couples or your own
Both.
person? Okay.
Both, okay.
So it's interesting because now I got a buddy who had a therapist who said, "No, you need a male therapist." Like I'm a man, dog. I know what it's been. I'm not a beta man. I'm an alpha man. I'm a very aggressive man. I know who I am. I don't need another man that tell me I know who I am.
Right.
I just want to learn how to navigate the waters of what's in my mind. How do I navigate the traumas that always pops up as you become an adult? Why did I work so? Why was I addicted to the game? Because I come from a family of drug addicts, of addicts. I need to be addicted to something, and basketball is my addiction. So I learned that. So I have so much stuff that was going through my mind that I wanted to organize. And when I believe on self-development and self-reflection of how you've been and who you are, for me, is big. It's a constant thing. It's not something that it's okay. It's not something that I did this, I'm good. No,
Right, it's constant.
It's constant.
Right, it's
Like I tell
consistency.
people, I had therapy and I'm good now.
Right.
No, I still go to I still attend my therapist. I still do those things.
Because we evolve and grow as people.
Exactly.
It doesn't stop.
Who you are now who you were a month ago.
Right.
That's who it is. So but that's very important. That's very important that for me, That's how I navigate this water. So the female to male thing, that thing didn't mind when it came to me, but I wanted somebody to help me with the layers that was in my mind, and she helped so much. Yep.
That's dope. What got you open to the idea of therapy? Who introduced it to you?
So it's funny. It was funny. I've always been a loner. Like we talked about my sons and how I have 3 sons and all of them have different personalities that are all different cuts of me. And I was wondering, why am I a loner? Why am I a loner? Why I have friends, but like I'm not out there.
You're a Capricorn, that's why.
That may be so too, but like I have different personality. I have my TV personality where I'm this enthusiastic guy,
Right.
always out there talking the conversation. That's what I do. But then when I'm at home, I'm real chill. I like my coffee. I like my golf. I'm a golfer. I do those things. I don't mind playing with a group or by myself, but I don't need people around me. So what got me an idea of therapy is I started realizing like when my marriage was about to end, and my wife was a foreigner. She wasn't American. She was a foreigner. But I gave my life because I was addicted to my wife and my children. I wanted to give everything to them. So when it wasn't working out, I was like, oh, this is going to be tough for me. How am I going to adjust from this? So with that thing, I said, I need help. And I have a great group of friends. I have 3 incredible good friends that have known me since I was 13 years old. And we're still all the best of friends now. And I was getting the therapy from the friends and all that. But I was like, no, I want professional help. I don't need yes men. And my friends are all 3 different. One is I have a few friends, but these 3 in particular. One is a very aggressive alpha like myself. That's my gangster guy. That's my guy. Incredible businessman because of how aggressive he is mentally. Then I have my other one that's kind of the nurturing one, but like, yeah, he gonna tell me it's okay. Then my other one is a great mixture of both. So I'm getting like, I need professional help. And when I got it, man, it helped me navigate so much stuff. And I told my ex-wife when we were supposed to be working on our relationship, and we was going through it, but I at one point I said, listen, I'm on a different path. I can be with or without you. But I'm not forcing you to be in my life, and I'm not forcing myself to be in your life. I'm on a different path of self-evaluation and self-fulfillment. I have to fulfill who I am and who I want to be, and a lot of that comes from me knowing who I am mentally. And that's how I started. And I just said I wanted it. And since then, I'm seeing the steps, doing the steps, and it's going some ways. Now, the crazy part is, one of my best friends since I was in high school hated my guts when I told him I went to a therapist. He said, how can you do that, man? How can you tell somebody else about you? Nobody know you like me. How can you do? Like, we don't really reveal ourselves to a person. We don't do that. We keep running each other. And like, he was angry with me to a point. We was at a pizza place after we left a late night salsa club or whatever. We just hanging. And I literally thought we was about to get the moving furniture in there. That's how angry he was with me. And I was looking at him because he needs help too. But he's such a successful businessman. But I'm like, you need help. F that. I'm not doing that, man. This is not me. So I know what it did for me. And now it's 2024. People are openly speaking about it. Right. Like right now, as you go to my profile, I'm preaching. I'm putting out the mental health, how people are opening up about it. And people need to do that. And they need to be okay having a discussion. Now it's not for everyone. Everyone like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm good. I don't have to work a day in my life. I choose my career because it gives me something to do and I enjoy it and I'm progressing and I think I'm pretty good at it. So for me, life is bigger than that. I live the life. I live enough life for 10 people. I'm not about the big glitz and the glam and all that. I like my espressos. I like my golf. I like to chill. That's what I like to do.
We're going to bounce around a little bit, but I don't want to lose this point. You mentioned something I was going to get to a little bit later in the timeline, but you just said basically you choose to work. Like you're good. Oftentimes we hear the story of the athlete that spent all his money and lost all his money. So what are some of the disciplines and what are some of the ways that you practice? What are some of the disciplines you practice that put you in a position where you don't have to work even so many years after retiring? Like it's a choice, but you can still be good off your money. What do you think you did differently than what we usually hear, and what advice would you give an up-and-coming athlete who's young, who might have just gotten the game, and they're getting way more money now, but it seems like they're blowing it a lot faster. So could you just give some insight on? Great question.
So I spent a lot of money. I got taken for bag on a lot of money, like just different projects didn't work out. So it's not like I have all my money saved. But I have enough that I can live the way I want to live, that my sons can live the way they want to live. They can live a certain lifestyle. So that's that's for me, because everybody's different. What they need and all that is different. Depends on who you are. So I blown a lot of money. I hired my old financial advisor His name was Charles Tank Harris. He first came in my life after I spent a lot of money. He said, yo, we got to do some things, adjust some things. And I listened to him, and that saved me. If it wasn't for him coming to my life, I would have been like, I wouldn't have been like everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people that's broke. I'm like that. Like I did a talk to a school, and I told them 84% of NBA players 4 years after they retire are either bankrupt, divorce, or depression.
But why is that?
Education. Now, when I say that, the NBA Players Association do an incredible job of educating us with our finances. But now, here's where the mental and who you are have to do with it. Are you willing to receive it? Or because you got this money, you think you know everything because you didn't come from money. And now when you get it, you think you're I have an out-of-body experience. I'm good. You don't really be open to that teaching that's coming. Now, when we retire, we wish you could have remembered more back then. But when you ain't a prime of your age, you think you got. In a respectful way, you think you got. Nobody can tell you what to do. The people I hired are going to take care of me. But a lot of times, they working for me. A lot of times, you don't listen to them.
Right.
So it's about listening to the people or learning yourself. And now, like I said, the NBA and the NBA Players Association does such an incredible job of educating the basketball players. But you got to be open to want to do with it. You know how many meetings we have a year? You know how many meetings we really listen to? Not many. Until you reach a certain stage of life, like, all right, I'm going to listen now. But if you listen on day one, you've been so much more advanced.
So is it less of the NBA not providing the education and more of people just not applying it? So the information is there.
No, the NBA does.
That's what I'm saying. So it's less of them not doing it. So they're doing it.
The NBA is doing it, yes. So we're at a certain young age, and respectfully, as African Americans who grew up without nothing, we haven't. One thing that I'm gonna say me because I want to get canceled. One thing we've learned, I learned is, like I said, I pretty much had to raise myself since I was 9, 10 years old. So I had to look out for me. So who knows more that for me than me?
Right.
So then when some people talk like, yeah, but I don't really trust you like that. Now I know more than you. So at certain points in my life, I wasn't ready to listen, to receive the knowledge that's given. And that's like us as people. A lot of times we're not ready to receive it till we're ready to receive it. You hopefully it's not too late by then.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So for me, that's how it worked for me. Like Charles Tank Harris saved me from being completely bankrupt and losing everything. But unfortunately, I felt, a lot of years later, I fell victim to divorce and I had some depressed moments. Didn't go through depression, had some depressed moments. So those are things, but I still am good financially.
Oh, that's good.
Two-part question. Well, it's two
Yes.
separate questions, but
Make it 20 parts. It's good.
all right. I want to know, at what point on your journey did you get married? And two, you said you weren't in depression, but you had depressing moments. Can you tell me how you identify those moments? Like, what about this moment identifies as a depressing moment?
Okay, great question. So the marriage question first.
Okay.
So my ex-wife was from Morocco. Met her here in the States, met her here in Philly. She was here for school, whatever. Met her when I was playing right between the transition from Minnesota Timberwolves to Philadelphia 76ers. And from the first phone call.
About how old were you at that time?
27?
Okay.
26, 27? 26,
All right,
27.
so mid to late 20s.
Yeah, 26, 27.
This is about what, 4 years into the league now?
Probably about 4 or 5 years in it. So where I met her, we had a conversation. Her mother, unfortunately, had passed away. She was in Morocco, back from Morocco to Germany. We had a conversation, and I hung up that phone. That was our first conversation. My mother was there. My best friend Mike was there. And I said, I'm going to marry this woman. First conversation. Swear to God out there. Mama, get out of here. I just seen with 2 chicks last night. Mama was like, which one? You don't even know. What's the name? Like, they went at me. Like, get out of here, bro. We know you, bro. I'm like, marry this woman. So fast forward 5-6 months into dating this woman, I said, I want to marry this woman. So I knew because she clicked all the boxes for me, checked all the boxes for me, right? So I said, okay, good. What I provide her is love language and stuff like this. You go through those things. So that's how that adventure. So let's fast forward to the end when it was starting. We've been married. She was a homemaker. Then she became a realtor, an incredibly successful realtor. And then the dynamic in the house changed. And then I start seeing the friction, start seeing that this is not going to work. We both seen it's not going to work. We had a face where we was very trying to like, yeah, this ain't going to work. Yeah, this ain't going to work. So at that moment, we both shut off. We was done. So when the reality hit, but we was still living in the house, sleeping in the same bed, no intimacy, just we cool. Because we was existing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and then I noticed, but then we had an argument. We said our boys as we get a divorce. And then at that moment, I seen how it changed my 3 sons.
And how long were y'all married at this point?
Ooh. 12, 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. So and then I noticed how it changed our 3 sons. Like it changed that my older son's an introvert. He became even more isolated within himself. My middle son, who's kind of the jokester, the prankster, the laughter, I see him doing it more, but I also believe that people that's doing that more also hurting the most. And then my youngest son, who was the most silliest, sweetest kid, stopped smiling.
Oh, wow.
Stopped smiling, stopped laughing. He became this big, tough kid. He matured overnight. And I noticed that, and we was living in a house, and I noticed there was no interactions, there's no more joking. You know, I was noticing like kids, I was like, I can't live like this. And I filed for divorce. And transparency, my ex-wife and I have an incredible relationship. We live 5 minutes from each other. We split custody of our children. We have an incredible relationship. We are cool peoples. So fast forward to that point, and then and depressed moments became when I filed and I realized like, oh man, I'm not gonna wake up to my children every day.
Reality set in.
Reality set in, like, and I'm a hands-on. A lot of people of certain type of success are not hands-on. I'm not saying all, so don't come at me. But they let the wife handle everything. They let nannies handle it. We didn't have a nanny. Because I raised my little brother pretty much like my son, I had experience with raising babies. So when my first son, Sharif Jackson, was born, I was changing diapers. She was breastfeeding. I would put belching, putting her to sleep. I was very hands-on. I nurtured my sons. She did too, but it was different for a guy of my caliber at that time to be so hands-on in the middle of my season. I'm staying in the middle of the night. My middle son, his nickname, I call him is the Hawk, and he's this big. I call him the Hawk. He's a colic baby. From 1 month to 10 months old, from 9:59 to 4:55 a.m., he screamed and hollered. So I called him the Hawk. So that was him. But I was very hands-on with my children. So I noticed that, and the depressed moment set in where I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna wake up to my sons. Oh man, like, what about if another man be in the house with my sons? Like, and that's when the depressed moments kicked in. So I would go through them, and I had the therapist.
So what would describe those moments? You just told me what the thought that triggers the moment, right? So like, I'll share.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank
so
you.
for me, right, depression for me, how I recognize it is knowing I have something to do, knowing the severity or importance of it, having time to get it done, and it's just like no motivation to physically move and do it.
No sense of urgency.
No sense. Yeah.
No, the urgency is there, but it's just like
You just can't pull yourself out to do it.
You know, if I don't go,
Right.
I'm probably gonna lose that bag, or I'm probably gonna get.
But you don't care at that moment.
And
you
depression
just
just
don't
be
do it.
like,
It is what it is.
Exactly.
look, you up, you gotta be there at 3:00. It's 9 a.m. 2 p.m. come, you still in that same spot.
Well, how do you get yourself out of it?
So that's a great question. So now here's my therapist who I had hired at that time. We had the couples therapist, and I had my therapist had prepared me for when that comes. So when I started getting that, my thing was, so I pride myself, and y'all heard of the author and David Goggins, right? He's a big motivational speaker. He gives a lot of, he's a very fight for yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. So I always have a certain mindset that I want to be the tough guy in the room, meaning not physical, but meaning mentally. Like, you can be going through hell and back. You can be going through something. I want you to know that I'm here for you. You can lay him in and show. I don't care how big and bad you are, how you in your feelings. I'm that one you can come vent to, you can come cry to, and I'm going to be a freaking statue, and I'm going to be there for you. You can rely on me. I'm not going to make you going deeper sadness. I'm going to make sure you're good. I've always prided myself, and the example was always be the strongest man at your father's funeral. That's the tidbit from it, meaning no matter how crazy things are going, be the strongest one. So that's what I pride myself on. with me, I fought like that. My therapist prepared me. She's like, Mark, you know it's okay to cry. I'm like, I'm cool. I go through my moments of crying. She said, Mark, but she told me, she prepared me. She said, when it gets to the point you have something to do and you can't do it, you have to call me immediately. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you have to call me immediately. She gave me, said, this you do. So it's interesting. I've been divorced divorced for 4 years. I never told my mother about how bad the arguments were with me and my ex-wife during this thing because I didn't want her to judge her. I didn't want her to judge.
Which is smart.
So, but what I did have is I had a godmother who I was pretty much was taken a little bit by sometimes in high school by my Italian family called the Marcianos. So she was my vent. I would tell her everything. She said, so my therapist told me, find your safe space. Find a person that you will always for somebody, that somebody's there for you. You can speak to, tell everything to, you can cry to, they can hug you because you need a hug. You need that big and bad, you'll need a hug. And she was that person. And I had my friends, but she was that person. She said, so when you feel like that, you need to go see her and call her immediately. I don't care what time it's called immediately. But it got to a point where I have felt something about my sons. I felt my sons did something, and I was like, man, like I'm not going to see that in the morning. And I got really upset one day, like sad. And she told me, she's like, look, Mark, I need to, and she called my therapist, called me, and I didn't answer the phone. I forgot what I was doing. I think I went for a run or walk something, but I didn't answer my phone like a certain amount of time, which I didn't notice. She immediately called my good friend in Delaware and tell him to go to my house and take my gun in my house.
Oh, wow.
She's like, because you didn't respond to me. She said, I'm legally obligated to call the police to go check on you. I didn't know this. So she did these things. She said, you didn't answer your phone. I had to do these things. So I said, I'm good. She said, yeah, but I still had to do it. I said, but what does that mean? She said, you don't know if people are suicidal. I said, I'm sad, but I don't think. She said, I don't know that. You didn't answer your phone. Last time we talked, you was very upset. And I didn't know you didn't answer your phone. I got to take the proper steps to make sure your kids have a father tomorrow. So she did those things. So depressed moments came, certain time lapses, an hour here, 2 hours here, 3 hours here. She told me when it lasts a whole day, you got to call me. She says, if you go to your safe haven, your godmother, you talk to your good friend Aaron, your good friend Mike, your good friend Chris, if you can't stand by it, you got to call me immediately. So like them depressed moments, that's how I help navigate it. Now, if I didn't have her, who knows?
Yeah.
Your depressed moments, do you feel the only thing that triggered them was the separation between your wife or seeing the effects on of your kids from
Great
what
question.
that's the only thing that caused your depression? Like, did you ever have any you mentioned when you were growing up being, raised by your grandmother, not spending a lot of time with your mom and, having a stepfather and things like that. Do you recall any depression from that? Or you ever
From my childhood?
Yeah, you recall being depressed as a child or that having you depressed or feeling that same?
Great question, man. Great question, guys. Appreciate y'all having me. Y'all have asked some great questions. So what I learned is, so I'm gonna correlate that to my sons.
Okay.
So I always told my sons, and they laugh at it now. And my sons are 17, 16, and 13. They're the same height as me. My sons are freaking huge. So I always told my sons, I'm going to be that pain in the butt parent, dad, that's always there that you can get embarrassed by me. To the point my middle son hates when I go to his school. Dad, man, don't come on, Dad, don't go to my school. Walk through my camp. I get too much attention. Mr. Jackson, sign this. Come on, Dad, don't come. So, but I told him, I said, I warned you a long time ago, because they go to the same high school I go to, and I still take visits there. So but I told him, I remember I told you that. That's not a lie. So, but I told my sons, so like, I'm a big stern guy, but I always use the famous boxing referee. I'm fair, but I'm firm. I'm firm, but I'm fair. So I always tell them when I'm warning on them, I said, I'm going to ask you something that's out of your control that you can't do. Am I being fair? But all that telling you to shut up and do it, because I tell you, I changed that. That's no longer. I wanted to make sure that you understand why I'm telling you to do these things. I'm hard on them. I am a military type parent. I am hard on them. I'm strict. They got a lot of freedom in their mom's house. They have rules in my house that they must be obeyed. They must be done. There's no exception. So one thing I learned is it was something with my son, after my divorce, after my separation, me and my brother had took my sons to Turks and Caicos, whatever. And my youngest son, who I told you at one point, stopped smiling, stopped joking. We was always at the pool and they was doing something with the contest. And he was out there dancing, he was jamming, smiling. And it's like a couple of years after my separation, my brother, look. And my brother hit me and said, look. And I looked, dog. And it was one of those moments I cried and I ran. And it was like, oh, my God, it is heaven on the other side. Like, meaning my children do have a positive, even though my mother and I are no longer together, we have a positive. So now let me answer that question. A thing I did with my therapist that broke through to me crazy, it was called the empty chair. What she did is she said, Mark, where was the moment in your life that you feel as though your life changed for the worse? I said I think it was 8 years old, and that's when I realized my life had changed for the worse. I can tell you the moment. I give you play by play. I had the chicken pox. I was home from school. My grandmother had come to my mother's house, stemming girl grandmother's house. My grandmother came to my mother's house to watch me because my mother was at work. And my grandmother's with me, and I had chicken pox. So normally I would go to her house. I'm like, why am I at her house? But so whatever. So I'm here. So then my mother comes home, and all I know is a heated argument between my mother and my grandmother. And I had a chicken pox. I'm itching. I'm doing that. And where I was sitting on my mother's bed, and it was a 2 or 3 story. As you can see, just to give you an example, you look out the bedroom, you look at the steps, you can walk down the steps, you can still see the bed. So the argument went on for quite some time, and all I heard my grandmother say, Ida, what are you doing? You had this great job, you had this boy, you're ruining your life. And it was like, I remember that phrase. And he argued that my grandmother, she get out the F out the house, and my grandma was leaving. As my grandmother was walking down the steps, she's looking at me with this fear. And at that moment, I knew my life had changed. And I remember it to this day, and I was like, that's not good.
It hit you after the fact.
That's not good. At that moment, I knew my life had changed for the worse. And that's the moment I think I realized when I look back that my mother was in her deepest thing with drugs. And soon after she quit her job, and she's in the streets. So she said, we're going to do this exercise. Put that 8-year-old boy in that chair and tell him it's going to be okay and why it's going to be okay. And when we did that exercise, so much emotion came out. My shirt was soaked, my clothes were soaked, and it just changed everything. It just opened up a world of like, wow.
You went down to what was rooted. Most people don't do that. That's what it is. And that's with everything. You have to go to what the root is of things.
It is.
And in order to be able to, solve the problem.
Absolutely. And that changed.
I'm sorry, you got to pull that closer because your voice is low.
Is
there
it?
you go.
I hear that.
Yeah.
You do speak like this right here. But that changed everything. Then that joy, that happiness came out because a lot of my childhood, my adult, I was getting triggered by adults stemmed from childhood. A lot of it stemmed from that moment. That boy was scared, and I wish I could have went back and saved him. At that moment, it just changed everything.
Yeah, that was deep, man.
I'm telling you, bro, listen.
Nah,
did
but
We are
something that
fact. We
most
are
people
truth, man. I'm
don't-
not going to hold nothing back
Most
from y'all.
people don't do that.
Nah,
And I think if more people did, it would resolve a lot of issues within relationships, friendships, communities, jobs, everything. That people need to figure out the root of what their problems are.
And we don't. It's a lot of
Right?
work.
Because it's easier to blame everyone else. That's why.
I mean, can you repeat that, please?
It's easier to blame everyone
It's
else.
easy to blame everybody else and call yourself a victim.
Right.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy, man. Like somebody, oh man, now get out of here. And that's where my 3 friends, my 1 friend, man, shut up, you all right. So another thing that was good, you talked about, you have friends you talk to, right? So one of my good friends, my aggressive friend, Aaron, at one point, and we go out every week to have dinner, and he's a big wine guy. I don't drink, but he drinks wine. We talk. And I was like, I guess I was maybe in my sad state. And this was during the time where my 3 things happened in a week. I'm about to share some information. I hope she'll be mad. But my wife said, can we just stay together for the kids? Can we stay together for the kids? And I was considering it. Can we just stay in the house, stay together for the kids? And I was considering it. So 3 things happened. I was considering it, right? So here's the 3 things that happened. My friend Mike told me about his story. And unfortunately, his mom passed away today. That's who I was on the phone with. And she was one of the people that had a big influence in my life. He told me an example of he grew up in a similar household, and he told me he begged me not to do it. He begged me not to do it. So that was him. Then I had my therapist said, Mark, you got so much love to give. You got so much love to receive. Don't put yourself in a friendship box for your children. Your children will be happier if you're happier. So she broke me down with that. And then this is a time with my other friend, Aaron. We was at a restaurant. I never forget. We was at Tallulah's Garden in Philadelphia, like near 4th Street. And we talking, he got mad because I was like, he's like me. He's 5'10", almost look albino guy, he's brother, but we like have the same personality. So he needs to be around another aggressor to control his aggressor. Like we kind of bounce stuff off each other. And he's like, man, fuck this. excuse my language, like, forget this.
You good, man?
He said, man, you know who you are? He said, you know who you are. You Marc Jackson. You undefeated. I was like, what do you mean? He said, man, you're not supposed to be here. You should be dead. You should be 6 feet under, 10 feet under. You should be in jail. You should be dead. You're alive. He said, you are undefeated. Man, what's going through with that lady who you call your wife? She don't know who you are. I know who you are. You're bigger, you're better than, you're a bad dude. You're undefeated. You know how many lives you saved? You know that? And then you worry about her. You worry about separating it. Your children will know who you are. Your children know more about you than she ever will. And they'd be proud of the father you had. Man, he broke it down to me. He was in front of everybody, stopped looking. People got him leaving. And he was like, and I needed that. And those 3 things happened. I was like, I'm done.
Then you made a decision.
Those 3 things happened in the same week. Mike told me about his story, how he grew up and how it affected him in adulthood. My therapist breaking down why that's not a good idea to stay in that. And then my brother being man to man. Aaron's like this, here, let me tell you why you're undefeated. Let me tell you who the F you are. This is who you are. Don't forget it. You may be in a state right now, but hurry me get out the state because you can't conquer the world like you've conquered your life. Get out of that state.
You know what I don't understand, though? Why is it that most parents don't ever look at it like they're teaching their children deceit?
To say it again?
Deceit. Why don't parents look at it like they're teaching their kids deception?
Good point. I don't know.
Well, a lot of parents start with that, and that's kind of like when we damn, I don't want to go this route.
And I was just having this
I'm not going to go
conversation
that
with
route.
somebody.
I'll say this: when we start teaching kids that Santa is real, starts there. It starts there. I was never one of those, and I received some backlash.
Right.
I remember one time my son, he was in 1st grade, and like he went to school and he told his friends and he told the teacher like Santa Claus is not real. My dad told me, and the teacher hit me, and I'm like, what? Like, I told my kid the truth. You're mad? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, y'all want to lie, y'all can lie, but it starts with that because it seems innocent, but it's just like, why set me up to believe something that you're gonna have to at some point
Explain to me that wasn't real.
And that's just the part that I
And the
try.
amount of years you do it, that's like a lot of explaining to do.
For all the
Yeah.
adults that I know that grew up that way, they are emotionally damaged, especially when it comes to relationships because of it.
Growing up that way, that was
Where their parents stayed together thinking it was supposed to do something for the kids. And it was never about the kids.
Now, disclaimer, parents that do that, we're
Right,
not coming
not
at you.
judging.
Do what's best for you. But that's the situation
Especially
my
when
good
those
friend Mike
parents
told me.
are in toxic situations. You have people that they have healthy relationships and they're able to do it where they can co-parent, coexist, and be in the house and raise their family cohesively. They date outside of that and they still have an understanding and it works fine. But a lot of people are emotionally damaged and they're teaching their kids deception and they're lying to themselves.
And that's what happened.
And they're
that's
in a
what Mike-
toxic situation, living in a home, saying we're doing it for the kids. It's not about the kids. The kids are not blind. They're not dumb. They see everything. They hear everything. They see that neither parents are happy.
a lot of parents don't get that. Like,
they do it for other reasons, financial reasons that may be better
that
for
too.
them too.
But a
So-
lot of what I've come to realize, depending on how you were raised. All right, so thus far, my experience has shown me that people who are more inner city kids, you were outside early. You might have been outside
yeah.
10, 11 years old.
like we were.
Yeah, right.
We're
versus people who look just like us that were raised in more suburban areas. I feel like the ones that are more sheltered, they kind of think that their kids don't pick up the way they do pick up. So, think about it. When I was 13, 14, I know all the shit that I knew that my mother thought I didn't know.
That's a fact and more.
So just imagine what your kid with the internet full-fledged
Yes.
Yeah, with the technology.
at
and
13,
everything.
14 knows
Right.
that you think, oh, they don't know this. Like, no, they know. They hip. They know way more than they let you believe they know.
Yeah.
And, they always listen and looking. I want to rewind a little bit.
Yes.
Because I'm so glad we got so deep into your personal story
Yeah.
because I feel that plays a huge part in who you are with what you do with the community and talking to the youth. But before we get there, I feel like we touched on some great things, and I really like touching on the fact that when you mentioned, you choose to actively work right now, right?
Yes,
So I want to get to how you even got to the point from being a player in the NBA, retiring, and then actually going to work for the NBA to in different degrees. But before we get there, right, I want to talk about on air, you got drafted in 97.
Yes, sir.
Right, I was real thirsty because I've been wanting to ask you this for months.
Okay,
So I couldn't hold it in. So I had to ask you before we started the interview. But the story was very interesting. So I definitely want to get back to that real quick. You were drafted straight out of college.
Yes.
And you went to Temple.
Yep.
So from Temple, you were drafted by not OKC, by
Golden State.
Golden State. You were drafted by Golden State, and you didn't start with them until 2000. Can you explain how that happened, why that happened? Because I never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
I always thought that if you were drafted in 97, you playing by the end of 97 or the beginning of 98 or whatever it is. But when I saw you was drafted in 97 and didn't start to 2000, I was very confused and I was very interested. And I see that you during that time you played overseas. So you mind breaking that down for us?
Absolutely. So
how and why that happened?
So when I was drafted in 97, my workouts, once I declared, I left school early to go to the draft. Went to the draft, and I was invited to go to the draft where you're in the green room, where you're there with the suit and everybody, your family on the table. But I had a feeling I was going to slip in the draft because I got hurt on my very first workout for the Atlanta Hawks. My good buddy Scott, we became buddy, where I was working out with Scott named Scott Pollard, who just was battling, had a heart transplant. Wish him best of luck. That's my guy. It's battling with Scott, and I got knee in my knee, and I had bone on bone bruise, so I couldn't work out for the rest of until the draft. Damn. Which is like bad. Unless you're like a top 5, top 10 guy, that's bad. So I had a feeling to drop. So I decided to stay with my family at my mother's home and have everybody there. So at there, I never told my agent until that day. I had a great workout for the Nets. That's when the one I could go, and I know Calipari, who was the coach of UMass at the time, had went to the NBA to be coaching the Nets. And I knew I had a great workout. I knew how much he liked me. He said, Mark, I'm going to draft you. He had a 21st pick. He said, I'm drafting you. I'm letting you know now when we draft you. I said, yes, sir. So then the Nets, the day before the draft, made a trade where they traded that 21st pick to the second pick. So I knew that was the only team in the draft that said, we drafted you. So when they went up to second, I said, I'm in trouble, which means I'm going to slip out the first round. So my agent and I pulled up to my mom's house at the same time. I said, listen, man, I'm in trouble. He said, what do you mean? He said, the Nets traded that pick. They moved it to the second. He said, we got other teams drafted. He said, no, I'm dropping. He looked at me like, come on, man. I was like, I'm dropping. I said, this is what I want. This is as we walking into my mother's townhouse. I said, this is what I want. I need you to get on the phone with all the top European teams. I said, I'm going to go to the highest bid. I need you to start a bidding war. True story. I need you to start a bidding war because I know what the EuroLeague teams and Euro Cup teams are paying. And the second round pick, to give you numbers, that year the NBA, the second round picks was making $249,000. That's what you was getting, $249,000 a year. Non-guaranteed, which means you had to be on a roster after January 4th or 5th for that contract to be guaranteed. You would get all your money, and if January 3rd, if they don't want you, they can cut you. You don't get the rest of your money. Oh, wow. So I told him, I said, I need to go to the highest bidder. He said, and he thought I was tripping. And as we wait for him around my house, I'll grab him again. I said, his name was Sal. I said, Sal, listen to me. You work for me. Do what I'm telling you. I said, do what I'm telling you. Get on the phone with all the EuroLeague, to the top European teams. Tell them I would love to come to Europe as they offer me the right money. And he looked confused. I said, you work for me. Do what I asked you to do. And he's like, all right. So all I know is we at my mom's house, townhouse in Palmyra, New Jersey. My mother has a fax machine upstairs. So I said, Mom, he needs to go upstairs, be in the office. Use fax. She said, oh, no problem. So he's on the phone. The whole draft going on, he's upstairs. He's never downstairs. My family, like I said, my mother, my grandfather, my brother, I had them. I had my god family, the Marcianos. They were there. A couple of friends. My grandfather was in a corner tucked away. And my age, like, what's your age? Oh, he's upstairs doing a call. I was like, oh, there's something to do. All right. So the first round go. And I remember, so he called me upstairs like, this 15th pick go in. He called me upstairs and said, hey, man, you sure about this? I got these. I said, do what I asked you to do. He said, okay. All I know is when the 22nd or 23rd pick went in that draft, he called me upstairs. He said, he said, I got the teams that I got for you right now. It's Barcelona, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Tofaş, Bursa Tofaş, which is in Turkey, and there was one more. And I think it was Real Madrid. It was 2 Spanish teams. I said, okay. If I'm not first in the first round, let's make him a bidding war. He said, okay. The last pick was John Thomas from University of Minnesota, another big guy for the New York Knicks. He was the last pick in the first round. I walked up the steps. I said, and he's seen it because he's watching it on that TV upstairs. He said, they had it. He said, Mark, they had it. And they had a bidding war. And I think I was picked 36 or 38, one of those numbers, which is six or 8 more picks later. And before that 6th round pick, I think I got to 34. Tofash is off your largest contract for a player to never play in the NBA. I signed it right there. He faxed it was over. And they gave me 80% of my money up front. Once I signed a contract, they was going to wire the money within a week. And
that was more than what the first drafts were getting.
Yes.
First round draft
yes.
was getting.
So they rewind. So I go downstairs, and as soon as I go downstairs, as I'm about to hit the steps, when I say everybody, oh my God, you got drafted by Golden State. Oh my God, yay. So my agent now, he's like, you ready for this? I say, yeah. True story, like a movie. We walk downstairs. Oh my God, he jumped and they kissed me. So they, oh my God, can you go and stay you in California? So my agent phone's ringing. It's PJ Carlissimo, and it's I think it was Gary St. James, general manager. Hey, put Marc on here. And my agent said, you want to talk about? I said, I'll tell him. So he gave me the phone. Mind you, had some local cameras there and had family friends there. And I'm like, hey, and they all listening. Listen, yeah, like, Marc, we can't wait to have you. It was the second round. We couldn't wait to scoop you up, man. This is going to be great for us. Can't wait to the Bay. And I said, true, so everybody's hearing it at the same time. I said, Coach, it's PJ Carlissimo. I said, Coach, I really appreciate you drafting me. I'm so fortunate I have this opportunity to be playing in the NBA. But that would have to wait. I'm going to Europe. And mind you, everybody's hearing at the same time. What do you mean going to Europe?
I said, stop the music.
I said, I just signed a deal to go to Turkey. He said, what you mean? I just signed a deal, a 1-year deal to go to Turkey. And he said, I signed a deal to go to, I will not be going to the NBA. And my family, my mother, they're like, what do you? They're all hearing it at the same time. And I'm like, he said, what do you mean? We can offer the first round. He said, you should have been the first round. We give you 2 years guarantee. I said, you can give me 5 years guarantee. It won't match this deal I just signed. And he said, what did you sign for? And I told him what I signed for. He said, that's higher than our first round draft pick. Good luck. And I was in the phone call. And I left and went to Turkey. And normally when you go to Europe, you have to get there like, I think, September, October. They wanted me there in July. For that amount of money, all right, we want you here in July. Like, he went there in July, which is great.
Training camp and all that.
Yeah, so I said the training camp started in September, October. I started my training camp in July. Which I don't mind because they said all 80% of that money up front, and 80% of that money up front, got that, did that. Now, here's the crazy part. This story I'm telling you guys, a European player, this is like an anomaly. This has never happened that a team sends you 80% of like millions of euros to you up front. Here's where it's a higher power. I fast forward to remind you, my family, like, oh my God, Turkey, don't they carry machine guns and all that? Nobody ever been across the water, but everybody that never been is given the most criticism. The only person that was across the water was my grandfather, who was sitting over in a corner, who fought in wars, older gentleman. He said, get lost for me, son. And he said, just get lost. Go there, go down a different street, walk to a different place, go down a different alley, get lost. Embrace it. That's the best advice I had. So mind you, I get there. Let me tell you how the world works. Sorry if this is going to top the cake. So I get there, mind you, this 21-year-old Shrek guy just signed this huge deal that's never been done in Europe before. I get off the plane, we landed in Bursa, Turkey, and they said, no, you stay the last. I said, okay. And I look out the window, there's all this media out there. So everybody, all the passengers get off. I finally get off, I do a little press conference there, then we drive to the town. So when I get there, first thing I do is I do a press conference, then I go take my physical. After my physical, I come sit there, I meet the coach, I meet the team. They're practicing. Now listen to this story. They're practicing. And they said, okay, met the coach real aggressive Serbian. He was like, can't wait to have you come out for practice tomorrow, be ready to work. No problem. Mind you, no other team in Europe is practicing till like September, October. They're practicing full force in July. So they say, okay, I'm going to take you to your house. You'll start practicing tomorrow. Now, mind you, rewind to my physical. The doctor says, hey, Marc, like, man, you got some strong ankles, man. I said, I never had an ankle sprain. Never had an ankle sprain in my whole life. Childhood, high school, college, never had an ankle sprain. Like, lucky, that's like crazy. Nobody, it's crazy. So I get there. So then, mind you, remember that statement. So then when we get to practice, or you can practice tomorrow, I said, man, I'm hyped. I see them practicing. I want to get in there. Like, what you mean? You just had a 10.5-hour flight. You just did like 2 press conferences. You just did an hour physical. Wait till tomorrow. Like, nah, I want to play. I'm a baller. Y'all gave me that money. Let me play. Like, well, okay. Get our money's worth. They change. I get on the bike. I stretch. The trainer stretched me out, get on the bike again, he stretched me again. He said, "You sure?" I said, "I'm sure, man. Let me play." All right. They doing this drill called the 3-on-2, 2-on-1 drill, where 3 offensive guys are going against 2 defenders. Then the 2 defenders go against 1 offensive guy. So I jumped in, I do some laps, I get in, I'm first up. I'm on defense. 3 guys coming at us. A guy goes, these are all facts, people, by the way. So the guy goes to shoot the ball, I block his shot. I give it to my guard. Now it's me and 1 guy going against 1 person. Mind you, if you count, this all lasted 15 seconds. I give it to him. We ran down the court. As you run the court, he gives it to me for, I want to take 1 drill, I want to take off. I land on a guy's foot and completely snap my leg in half.
Oh my God.
From my ankle. So it's a guy named Gordon Hayward and Paul George had the same injury. In the first 15 seconds of my pro career, I snapped my ankle like a twig.
God,
That's
When 80% of all the millions in the bank in America.
Damn.
Was supposed to be out for 3 years, only ended up being out for 10 months.
So boom,
That's
you were
crazy.
out. So you were playing in Turkey, and then from there you went to Spain.
So I signed to Turkey, then I signed the next year, I think, in Turkey again with FS Pilsen, and then I went to Spain. Yes.
So you did Turkey, Spain, and back to Turkey before you came back to the U.S.
Before I went to the NBA, yes. So now, mind you, the reason why I had to go back to Golden State, but once you're drafted, that team back then used to hold your rights forever until you came back and played under that contract. So when I finally
You
decided
had like
to come back,
you had like a bad boy contract.
Yes, I had so I pretty much had to go back and play for Golden State. So that's how I ended up back at Golden State after 3 years in Europe.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, listen, you could go, but
you
whenever
gotta
you
come
come back,
Yeah, we still
Sounds like a
got you.
record label.
Serve that time.
Yeah, you said it, record label, exactly.
yeah, that's why I said bad boy, because
Yeah.
remember, Mace left,
Yes.
Had
and when
to
he
come
came back, bro, you still owe some albums over here, bro. All right, you
Still
back?
the best that ever
Good.
done it.
Exactly.
All right, so I want to ask you, what was your favorite team that you played for?
Ooh.
Both overseas, both NBA, and then what did you like more, overseas or NBA?
Hey, that question about to get me in trouble with my American friends. All right, so my favorite NBA teams was my hometown team, Philadelphia. I had a childhood friend named Aaron McKee that played on the same team as there, so that's made it fun. I had another Philly guy named John Samuels on the team, so that made it fun. We playing against AI, so I'm playing with AI, so that made it fun. But all my teams is fun.
But you were a high scorer though, like you.
I was, yes.
Like I was looking
Yeah.
at some of your stats, and you were like
Yeah.
over high 80s, like 80,
80% free throws and all that. Yeah, so
yeah.
that was my favorite. But every team was different. Like I enjoyed my time with the Nets because we had a guy named Richard Jefferson. Y'all see him? I think he does games for Nick. Rich dog, he can lighten the mood. Like listen, playing with Richard, Jason Kidd, and Vince Carter, that was real cool because Rich had the most
that was an era.
that had the most driest humor. That he would clunk you with a head with a comment and make you laugh, but you wouldn't laugh. Like, hold on, you didn't saw me talking about my mother, man.
What year were you with the Nets?
I don't know. I can't remember. It was after they had went to the championship.
Okay.
It was after it was that year. So it was that. But then I was in Minnesota with Kevin Garnett, Gary Trent, Wally Serviak, who does Knicks game. Like we had all my teams, and then I was with the Hornets with Chris Paul. Like all my teams, they were all fun. But my favorite experience as a basketball player, not on the court, but life's basketball player, is when I played in Spain.
Okay.
I played in a small town called Cantabria, Spain, between Torrelavega and Santander in Spain, a town of 35,000 people. I got there at one point halfway through the season. After I got there half season, they was like 2-12. I got there, we won like 10 out of 12 games.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I became like a little folklore, a little town legend there. So at that point, this is why I love Spain. Everybody in that town started walking, Mr. Jackson, come to my house for dinner. Come to my house for siesta.
Yes,
So I
Spain
played there
is
for
like
2 years. For 2 years, I might have ate at my house 5 times. I think I might have ate at half that town's house for siesta or dinner. And because I'm a culture guy, I don't mind venturing out. I was just meeting people. They made me a Spaniard pretty much. And I became like part of that town, part of that community as well. That's why I love Spain.
That's dope. Spain is fire. Let me ask you, did you played when you retired from the NBA, did you also go back and play in Europe?
So now that's the interesting story. When I came back and played for Golden State and played that under that one deal, which the league minimum was $249,000, that's when I signed my 7-year deal. So when my 7-year deal was over, I became a free agent again. And I had 4 contract offers. One,
What does that mean?
so I was a free agent now. So now I can sign anywhere I want.
Okay.
So when I became a free agent again, and this might have been the first time that a player might have got fired by an agent. So my agent had 4 teams that wanted to give me a contract, but I wanted to go back to Europe. He said, "What? If you mean go back to Europe, I'm going to go back to Europe, man."
More money, they love you
It
more,
was
they
no at
appreciate
that
you
point.
more.
It wasn't more money
Okay.
than what I was about to make in the NBA. It wasn't more money than I was about to make in the NBA. So what I was about to make in the NBA, but what it was is I missed the lifestyle. I missed the community. You know, in the NBA, bunch of millionaires in the locker room. Everybody once practice over, everybody go their separate ways.
Okay.
Everybody go their separate ways. You do whatever you into. You don't see nobody to practice or games. In Europe, we leave practice. We going out to eat. So, and no matter if you married, you single, everybody go out together. You bring your wives, you bring your girlfriend, you bring whatever.
It's cultural.
It's cultural. It's drinking coffee. I'm a coffee buff. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I drink tons of coffee. I drink espresso. We go out, we have lunch, we have dinner. Don't be 30 minutes. You know, you eat, you have friends, you might stay an hour max. Eat, then you out. Everybody doing anything. In Europe, you sit there and eat for 3-4 hours because it's conversations. And I'm learning. I ask questions. Maybe that was foretelling that I was going to actually be on TV because I was interviewing. Because I asked so many questions.
We didn't even get there yet. We getting there. I'm getting there next.
So, you know what I mean? Like, so I missed that. I told you, you're my agent. I mean, you're freaking crazy. I don't work with you no more. I have to get another agent. So I end up going back to Europe. And that's how it happened.
Well, how did you?
No. How did you go from you left the NBA, you went to play ball in Europe. How did you land a job back at the NBA in the city you grew up in for one of the teams you played for? How did you end up working with the 76ers? And what was the initial capacity? Did you start off being an analyst for them, or did you start off maybe this doing this job and then worked your way up?
So I think that so real quick, my godfather, Frank Marciano, when I was a rookie, I was on TNT, you know, with Shaq and Kenny, but back then it was only Ernie. I think Kenny was doing it with somebody else, and they had me on in Atlanta. They had me on the set. I did, when my rookie year, did that. And back then, my godfather told me, you're going to be on TV one day. Like, well, whatever. They know. You're going to be on TV one day.
He knew.
Like, whatever. Okay. So fast forward, I'm playing in Europe now. So I get a phone call, a lady named Michelle Murray, who was a high up for the 76ers TV coverage, which is with Comcast, now it's NBC Universal, but she was for the 76ers. She said, hey, a guy named Shifty called who worked in that office, a guy used to be behind the camera, used to ask me questions. She said, hey, I hear you about to retire soon. I'm like, no, not yet. I'm playing one more year. I'm in Europe now. I'm not in the States. I'm in Europe. And she said, no, so I played my ass one more year. So I played next year. She calls me again. Mind you, I never met this lady.
Oh, wow.
She called me, hey, this is Michelle Murray again from such and such, do this TV for the 76ers. So are you ready to retire? I said, actually, I am going to retire this year. She said, let me know you're in the States. Call me. I want you to come in and do like some stuff in Philly. I was like, all right. And I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time. So I retired in Tampa, Florida. So I call her. No, she called me again. Said, hey, are you home in America? Yeah, I said, I'm in the summer. I said, yeah, I'm here. I forgot all about her again. Mind you, I never met this lady.
Now she knew what she wanted.
So I said, yeah, I'm in the States. But like she said, come up to Philadelphia. Would you consider doing TV? I said, I never did TV before. Oh, we'll see. Just come up and do this have a conversation. Okay. So I get up to Philadelphia. So they put 2 TVs, and mind you, I didn't know what I was going up there for. So it was me and a guy named Marc Zumoff, who did the television for Philadelphia 76 for over 20 years. We're watching the game, we're like analyzing the game. I'm pretty much doing a mock game, like I'm talking about the game. And then afterwards, I said, oh, that was fun. She pulled me off, hey, would you like to do TV for the 76ers? Like, what does that mean? I ain't going back to school. Like, no. You don't have to go back to school for that.
You're naturally good.
Yeah, she's like, you don't have to go back to school for that. I said, tell me more. She's telling me more. She said, you could do pre and post, where you do like an hour show before the game. You do a halftime show, do an hour and a half after the game. So,
Sounds
sure.
pretty good.
Why not? So I was commuting up to do it. And I said, do I got to do anything? She said, no. Just be an hour and a half for the first game of the season. I was like, okay. So I went back to Tampa, and I was flying up to do the games. And that's how I started. And I've been doing it ever since, and I freaking love it. Now, also with that being said, used to do stuff, college basketball for CBS Sports. Now I do college basketball for ESPN Sports.
Dope.
And I love it, man. It's fun. It keeps me in the game. I'm an Energizer Bunny. I love it.
So how did the charity come into place with this?
The which one?
Charity.
So my nonprofit. So my nonprofit, Jackals Foundation, the mentorship. So mind you, even when I was playing in NBA, as I got older, the younger guys, NBA players, was coming to me asking for advice because I was a little odd. I was an odd duckling. I was a little different. I didn't go out and party. I didn't go out. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. So the younger guys that was fighting to stay alive in the league, like, how do you do it? Because here's the facts.
Earlier, you mentioned that you had like a bad guy persona. Was this during that time?
This was during the early, yes.
Okay.
A lot of fights, a lot of friggin' fouls, all that stuff. But people that knew me knew I was just a nice dude. I was just different. So guys would come up and they was asking for advice. I was advising them, like, what should you do, this. And I was still addicted to the game of basketball. So I was always working out. I was there practice 3 hours early. When practice ended, I was there 3 hours later. So here's a great story. My rookie year, it's a guy that's been killing the podcast scene named Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was He
the one that brought the guns in there.
exactly. Gilbert Arenas was played for Arizona State. He was drafted to be a first-round pick. He fell into the second round because they questioned his maturity. I wonder why. But they questioned maturity, so he fell into the second round. So he got drafted my second year at Golden State. We had drafted 2 first-round picks, a guy named Jason Richardson, a guy named Troy Murphy. And he drafted Gilbert second round. So I never forget this day when I knew Gilbert was different. They're having a press conference in Oakland at the press facility. And it's Gilbert, it's Jason, it's Troy Murphy. All the media is asking these 2 first-round picks, Jason and Troy, pretty much majority of the questions. Gil just sitting there. And halfway through, this lady asked him, true story, please find a video, if it is one. She said, Gilbert, how does it feel? You were supposed to be a first-round pick. They questioned your maturity. You slipped to the second round. How does it feel you were a second-round pick and now you sitting here? He said, I don't give a damn about none of this. I'll be starting by January. Word for word. I don't give a damn about none of this. I'll be starting by January. By January, you're starting. So, now, mind you, when I seen that, I said, that's my guy. Because I always wanted somebody to work out with. So he was kind of a goofball. He was like kind of getting on the veterans' nerves because he was like doing, so he was like stealing their clothes. Not stealing, he was like taking their clothes, dumping it in the hamper,
like playing games,
on it, like just doing young,
being immature
stuff. Which ready to drop the second round. So with Gil, and I said, Gil, man, let's go work. And he was like, we had some bad apples on our team. We had great guys, we had a couple of bad apples. So he was kind of like me, and I said, Gil, I'm a junkie. I need to work out. You got a lot of excess energy. Let's work out together. And we started working out every day together, before and after. We shooting one-on-one fork in the mind. He's probably one of the fastest players with balls ever in the NBA. But one of the ways I was trained to play is to play one-on-one with guards full court. Now, I was nowhere near his speed, but I can handle the ball. He wasn't stripping me. So we played one-on-one full court. We shoot a lot of shots, one-on-one full court. And all this is 2 hours before practice started. Then after practice, we would do it again. And we did that for a whole season. And I told him, I said, Gil, and I told him my story, how I wasn't playing, but then everybody got hurt, and I played 27 games and then time for $27 million. So I told him that story, and I kind of gripped. He was my guy, got him on the wing, and I just kind of latched on to him, and we became workout buddies.
So in a sense, it started with Gilbert.
It started with Gil, and I kind of got Gil, and Gil tells the story all these podcasts how I saved his career because of that.
Tell us about some of the initiatives that are going on right now with your nonprofit organization, with your mentoring. Just give us some examples of how do the children get picked? Where does this take place? Do you have a facility where they come to, or do you just go and speak to them, or do you do both?
Great question.
If there's somebody in Philly or maybe somebody long distance, do you have anything where you might offer some online mentoring or a program where they can send their kid to your establishment for to your company for the summer or something, like anything like that? Or?
So the way my program works, so yes, it started with Gil and Brandon Bass was another NBA player. But then what came to the youth, was I was mentoring players, and my sons were very young when it started. I think I started this in Florida when I lived in Florida, when my oldest son, she was like 3 or 4 years old. So it started very young. But what it was is I was teaching kids basketball, but then it became to mentorship. It became a mentoring, creating, because a lot of kids, some of the kids I was around was just kind of well-off kids, kind of entitled. So I kind of had to break them of that and then kind of work with them. Then became that. Then when I moved to Philly, when I moved back to Philadelphia, because I lived in Tampa, I moved back to Philadelphia, I noticed that need for an NBA voice to be in these kids' mind, a kid's head. So I started my program, which is Jacko Foundation, which is mentorship to mentor kids, but it's through the game of basketball. So the way you needed a tunnel to get through them mentally. So it became that way. So mentally, I started doing that, working with kids and getting into it. And I started getting facilities. I started asking facilities, would you please allow us to use your facility 2-3 days a week so I can mentor these kids and also work with them in basketball? And that's how it started. People start volunteering their facility to be for use it. Now, some people say, oh, you can rent my place. I can't afford to rent your place. But the people that was donating their facilities to me, we were using and was taking advantage of. So the kids in Philadelphia, I will put it all on social media. Parents will reach out to me. And that's how it started. Now, I still mentor them. My first group of kids are now freshmen in college or sophomores in college. Nice. And I still mentor. They call me anytime. I still get the emails, the text from their parents. Thank you so much. The new kids are saying, you just reach out to me, social media, parents reach out to me, and that's how you get involved. Online, wherever, I'm there because I am a product of what I'm trying to teach. I'm big on that. And the biggest thing is now the term we spoke a lot of, we have great conversations about mental health, about you being good here. I try to teach the kids because everybody thinks they're next Kobe. Everybody thinks they're next LeBron James. Everybody thinks they're Michael Jordan. But be bigger than that. Have your sights set on that because that's a small window. What you going to do after that? What you going to be before and after? It's about relationships. How do you communicate with people? How do you get in diverse communities? That's important. How can you be proud of who you are no matter how you look and also give that to other people and be willing to be open with people? Because a lot of times young boys are so like this, they're scared to kind of venture out nowadays because they don't need to. They got cell phones.
Right. They don't want to be
Communication. So I'm big on mental health and raising young men to not be entitled, but to get what they get because they earned it.
What's the name of your organization?
Jacko's Foundation, also called Jacko's Foundation, but also it's the basketball aspect is called Team Jacko, but it's Jacko's Foundation.
Dope. I wanted to ask something I saw on the internet. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I want to know if you know anything about this or if you think it would be a possibility. I saw something about AI might be interested in actually just taking a position at the 76ers.
My guy AI, a.k.a. Bubble Chuck. Bubble Chuck has been asking for years to be somehow affiliate or be with the 76ers. But, there's been so much turnover with the 76ers to see retired, different owners. They're not the same owners that the team owners when he was there. It's different people. So they might have different agendas, different goals. But he's been asking for a lot of years to be coming to Philadelphia. And not just Philadelphia, just be part of the NBA.
Right.
Because he was one of the icons.
He changed the game in a lot of ways.
Right,
Think about
he
that.
did.
He brought hip-hop to the game, in my opinion.
That's a good point. Not many people can argue with that.
The braids, the
Yes,
clothes.
the clothes, the baggy clothes, like being yourself.
That look, yeah.
The tattoos,
First of all,
showing.
those AI braids. I'm a hairstylist.
So is that it? Oh, exactly.
Everybody
those
calls them AI
braids.
braids, yeah.
Really?
Some cornrows, that's what they call it in the streets,
Yeah,
AI
but
braids.
to have to do that, oh my God. But thank you, AI. I did well in high school.
Got a lot
because
of money,
those.
got a lot of money
definitely
for AI
did.
braids, huh?
Definitely did.
Exactly. But he's been asking for that, but there's been so much turnover with different ownership in the 76ers over the last 20 years since he retired that it's like they're trying to fit him in. But with that being said, the 76ers do an outstanding job of bringing him and Dr. Julius Irvin in, to keep them as ambassadors to make sure they're never forgotten. And believe it or not, that's hard to say. I can forget about those. But these young kids now with these cell phones, they don't remember players no more.
Yeah.
They hear who Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan who? Oh, he was garbage. Like they don't know these things
Disrespectful.
unless they seen it now. They remember who played 2 years ago. So the 76ers do an outstanding job in the community in the city of Philadelphia and New Jersey of making sure you don't forget who AI and you forgot who he was. Watch this. This is what it is. 76ers do an outstanding job with Dr. J and with AI and make sure they're never forgotten.
That's good.
What's the one message, or I guess maybe it could be more than one message. What message do you give the young boy, the young girl who feels they're not loved the way they should be? What message do you give the person who's faced with possibly the biggest decision of his life, of going left or going right?
Adversity.
And what message do you give the person who's chasing his dream and his home is splitting apart at the same time? So what do you tell that young person that's looking for love they're not receiving? What do you tell that person that's faced with a huge decision that nobody could understand? And what do you tell that person that's in the process of, in the middle of reaching their goals but dealing with turmoil in the household with a significant other?
So the first thing I can say about love, you have to love yourself. Now that's easier said than done because a lot of times we told we're not good enough. A lot of times we may feel we're not good enough. So it's hard to love yourself if you don't feel like you're good enough. You are good enough for you. The love you give yourself is all the love you truly need. Yes, would you love from an outside source of entity? Absolutely. But if you love yourself, if you put the time into yourself and give yourself the joy that it needs, that's what you need. No one else can give you love. You have to give it to yourself. You can accept it from other sources. But if you love yourself, that's all that counts. The first thing is I tell people, remember who you are. You are you, meaning your mother and dad or your father and your mother may have created you, but you are you once you come out of here. And what you give yourself is how you build yourself. You can build yourself with love because everything is not always going to be rainbows and sunshines. That's my favorite line. Not everything's going to be rainbows and sunshines. You're going to get knocked down. But if you love yourself enough to get up, that's what counts, and do that. The person that's, what's the second one?
The person that has a decision to make that nobody else can really understand.
Yeah.
Kind of like going back to your decision to go to Spain versus taking that second draft pick.
Have to be comfortable with what you decide. Do your due diligence and say, look, I'm going to make this decision, but I can't make this second guess and worry about the decision I did not make. Once I make the decision, I'm putting both feet in this direction. I'm not going to have one foot walking like this, like a duck, going this way. My foot don't want to leave this thing. Once I go right, I'm going to stay right, and I'm going to put it all in there. Once I go left, or if that's decision, I'm going to put left, I'm going to put it all in there. You can't make a decision to go one way but say, maybe, no, it's no more maybe. This is the path I chose. I got to put all my eggs in this basket. I can't worry about the decision I did not make because that's now gone. That decision's now gone. I made the decision right with it. And then the third one?
The person that's in the middle of maybe achieving their dreams, but they're having turmoil at home with a significant other.
No one can complete you. I know that phrase, that old movie to mention, you complete me. That's a movie. No one can complete you. You complete yourself. And if you don't feel as though, and everyone does things for different reasons, so I'm not telling no one to do it. I'm speaking from my point of view. My ex-wife and I are great friends. We co-parent great. We don't argue. We don't fight. We on the same page on everything. And I know that's rare. I know that's rare. But I tell them like this. It's unfortunate we went our separate ways, but we did. So it's important that I understand I have to be happy for me, because when I'm happy, everything under me works out better. But if I'm in a position where I'm not happy, or love or joy is not being in my space, I can't give that to everybody else. I have this thing, I have to fill my cup up with love and joy. And so it overflows to give to others. If that's not filled, how can you give it to anyone else? So that's how I feel.
Thank you. That was deep.
Man.
Listen, Mark, I truly appreciate you taking time out.
I need to take off
Like
my hat.
you came all the way from Philly. This wasn't a day where you just happened to be in New York. You specifically came to Philly,
Yes, to New
took
York,
time out of your busy schedule. You traveling all over the world. You're on TV all week. And you came to do my show, and I truly appreciate that. Not only did you come do it, but I felt like this was a great interview. Like you gave a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight. And I'm just truly grateful, man. I thank you, my brother. I appreciate your time.
You and my Capricorn sister. How are you think? I appreciate y'all. I like these conversations because we got deep. And I don't mind. I know some people uncomfortable, but I don't mind it.
No, that's great.
I fought back tears in this conversation, to be frank with y'all. I fought a couple of times. I don't mind it because that's who I am, okay? I love it. Thank you.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. And that's the purpose of this show. We feed ourselves, our community, we feed ourselves a lot of stuff that's not really productive for us, but it's entertainment. We be entertained, so I get it. But I wanted to bring something to the forefront that would allow us to see people who have celebrity but have something to say that can benefit us. Our show focuses on 3 things: health and wellness, political science, and entrepreneurship. Something else that I would add in there would be definitely mental health. And I feel like everything that you just touched on, I feel like there's so many people that can relate to so many different things you shared. That's why I just picked those 3 that stood out. But, throughout this whole interview, I feel like it's just a lot of jewels dropped on how to face adversity. So I thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Definitely.
Thank y'all so much, man. This was outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your social media?
My social media, follow me on Instagram is the Marc Jackson, TheMarc Jackson, JACKSON, the Marc Jackson. And on was it X now? It's not Twitter, it's X now.
We still call it Twitter.
It's Jacko2544, Jacko2544, and I have a YouTube page, the Marc Jackson, THE, the Marc Jackson.
And you're doing a podcast on YouTube, right?
I do a podcast on YouTube too. But now during the season, I had to slow down, but I'll start it back up once the season ends. Hopefully, it's later than sooner.
And you're on ESPN and CBS, correct?
I'm on ESPN College Basketball, and I'm on NBC Sports Philadelphia for the 76ers.
One more question. Oh, so what days do you come on? Just anybody that's looking.
Any NBA game.
Any NBA game.
It's like so, and you know the way this NBA season work. It's like whenever they game, I'm on.
Is it national?
It's more whoever get Philadelphia games, that's who get it. But you can watch anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Got you. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, I won't say how often because it may be often, but do you get when people hear Marc Jackson, do they confuse the two of you and like, well, how do you deal with that? How do you feel about that?
Listen, so that's why when I was on Instagram, I said this is the big Marc Jackson. So Marc could tell you, we've had a couple of times we've been in some weird cities, and I get a hotel room, when he get a hotel room, we walk in and the other one's in there. Funny story.
Like double book.
Yeah, like what are you doing this? You don't even live here. What are you? Funny. So, yeah, so we've done that. But yeah, some people do. Oh, you're Marc Jackson. But like now, here's the funny thing. My face is known more for what I do off the 76ers stuff and social media than when I played.
Oh, okay.
Because it's what's current now.
Yes.
So it's what they're seeing
Yes.
now.
Right.
Yeah,
Kind
it's
of like
not like I used to. Like, Marc, oh, you the guy play for the Knicks. No, I'm the big Marc. Oh, you got to play for Philly. So now it's like, oh, you the guy to do 6 stuff I see on Instagram. Like, yeah, and one thing I want to make sure, I'm a motivational speaker too. We've got to do that. And I'm working on a book that's talking about my experience of playing for my hometown, Philadelphia 76ers. Okay. Some people hated it who played for their hometown. Some people loved it. So my book's going to be
Let me ask you, I'm sorry.
Yes,
This one question
yes,
I
go on.
didn't ask.
Yes.
So was there anybody that didn't want you to succeed or was just like, hell no, oh, you want to play basketball? Why would you want to
Oh,
do
the crab in
that?
the bucket mentality. Well, I'm quite sure there's a lot of that in my neighborhood, my community.
Okay.
But you know, I use them as boosters.
Okay, good.
That's turbo boost for me. There's a lot of haters out there, but you know, them haters is part of life. The haters are part of life. You know what I mean? Like as long as you keep respectful, I'm cool. Like you know, bring it. That's what it is, and that's just fuel to the fire. I told you I fuel off negativity,
Right.
and I ride with it.
No.
well, there you have it. Listen, if you got a hater, you're doing something right.
Facts.
You don't get resistance standing still.
There you go.
Not at all.
Marc Jackson, Kadiba, Deuce Privi, thank you very much. I appreciate you, my brother.
Appreciate y'all for having me. What a show.
Yes,
what
sir.
a
Thank
show.
you.
What a
Thank
show.
you.
What a show.
If you are someone interested in self-care, you definitely should visit Analyst Essentials Facial Spa for some relaxation. Founded by licensed esthetician Loisha Lewis, they are located in Union, New Jersey, offering a variety of services and specializing in customized signature facials for men, women, and teens. You can book your appointment online at AnliaEssentials.com and also find them on Instagram at Anlia Essentials.
It ain't playtime, it's game time. Let me talk my shit for a minute. Chef Privi. Rubber bands on my wrist, couple bands in my pocket. No reward without risk. I'm just here for the profit. When I'm talking my shit, you know that cash is the topic. When I'm talking about trips, I'm talking out in the tropics. Now I'm back in the kitchen, you know my cooking is different. And with the left, I be whipping. Now I'm eating and shitting. It's a beautiful feeling. Cruising the coupe with no ceiling. When it's hot, I be chilling. Hit the block, make it killing. Gotta grind every day, get every dollar, my mentality. Focused on life, gotta focus on reality. I learned to make a profit way before I made a salary. Told them I would do it, they sat back and laughed at me. How could you be mad at me? I progress gradually, did it with no help, no staff, no faculty. How could you be mad at me? I progress gradually, did it with no help, no staff, no faculty. Real rap, all facts, no cap. I lost it all and got more back. If that ain't a hustler, then what you call that? The money was calling, so I called back.